You've probably heard it. Life expectancy in ancient times was around 30. It gets repeated constantly, and it's almost completely misleading. It doesn't mean people dropped dead at 30. It means something much darker and much more specific about how ancient life and death actually worked. Life expectancy is a statistical average, and averages get dragged down hard by extreme numbers. If half of all babies born never reach their 5th birthday, that single fact alone crushes the average age of death for an entire population, even if plenty of people lived into their 60s and beyond. Imagine 10 people. 5 die as infants, 5 live to 70. The average age of death across that group is 35, even though nobody in that group actually died at 35. That's essentially the statistical trick hiding inside every ancient life expectancy headline. And that average was dragged down hard, starting from day one. Childbirth itself was staggeringly dangerous for both mother and baby. Without sterile tools, without antibiotics, without any real understanding of infection. A difficult birth that would be routine today could easily be fatal. Even surviving birth wasn't a guarantee. In many ancient populations, a shockingly large percentage of children died before age 5, from infection, malnutrition, or diseases. Modern medicine now handles routinely. But here's the part that changes everything. If you made it past roughly age 5, your odds improve dramatically. Plenty of ancient people lived into their 50s, 60s, even beyond. The danger was heavily front-loaded into early life. Archaeological sites regularly turn up skeletal remains of clearly elderly individuals. Proof that living to genuine old age wasn't some rare fluke, but a realistic outcome for those who survived the early gauntlet. Once past childhood, disease remained a constant threat. Without antibiotics, vaccines, or any real germ theory, infections that are trivial today could spread unchecked and turn lethal with little warning. A minor cut, an infected tooth, a small wound gone septic, conditions we now treat in a single visit to a clinic could realistically end a life within days. Dental problems were especially brutal. An abscessed tooth, with no dentistry available, could develop into a spreading infection serious enough to be fatal. Food security was never guaranteed either. A single bad harvest, a failed hunt, or an unusually harsh season could tip an entire community toward malnutrition, weakening resistance to everything else. Strangely, the shift to farming often made things worse, not better. Early farmers frequently show poorer skeletal health than hunter-gatherers before them. A narrower diet, harder physical labor, and new diseases that came with settled life. Living closely with newly domesticated animals introduced entirely new categories of disease, illnesses that could jump from livestock to humans, a trade-off that came bundled with the benefits of domestication. Permanent settlements also meant permanent waste, stored food attracting pests, and crowded, close-quarters living, ideal conditions for disease to spread in ways smaller, mobile groups had rarely faced before. Violence was another real factor. Skeletal evidence from numerous ancient sites shows healed and unhealed injuries, consistent with interpersonal conflict, raids, and warfare, a grim but consistent thread throughout much of human history. Predators, environmental hazards, and simple bad luck, a fall, a flood, an animal encounter gone wrong, all carried far higher stakes without modern emergency response. Even ordinary accidents were riskier. A broken bone that heals awkwardly, a wound that won't stop bleeding. Problems modern medicine handles routinely could realistically become life-threatening. Some of this risk was baked into human biology itself. Our unusually large brains required an unusually narrow pelvis versus head size balance, making childbirth itself biologically more dangerous for humans than for most other animals. Much of what we actually know comes from skeletal analysis. Bones and teeth carrying visible evidence of disease, injury, nutrition, and age at death, letting researchers reconstruct realistic pictures of ancient mortality patterns. So no, ancient people didn't typically drop dead at 30. Childhood was brutally dangerous, childbirth was a genuine gamble, and disease and violence took a real toll throughout life. But survive the early years, and a long life was entirely possible. The real story isn't a short lifespan, it's a dangerous beginning.